Hi guys, we'll start with our broadcast section, which is abnormal environment and its conclusion, and then we'll move on to writtens. So, Mark from Sky Sports, if you want to kick us off.
Brendan, it's Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Mark. Yes, good afternoon. Yeah.
Great stuff. Brendan, we'll start with the big talking point in football this week. That's the departure of Steve Bruce from Newcastle. But more importantly, it's highlighted perhaps an issue that's not been spoken about a great deal. That's the mental health and the mental well-being of managers, the pressure they're under, the things they have to face from pundits and fans. As someone who's been in the game for a long period of time and have managed a lot of clubs, big clubs as well, is there more that needs to be done to respect, understand, look after and be aware of the challenges that managers face in modern football?
I think, Mark, the pressures have always been there, and obviously with now more spotlight and more media and more opinions, and of course that will only grow. I think as managers we understand that if you don't get results, you're always going to be under pressure, and obviously that there'll be things that'll be said. You know, everyone deals with it differently. I, from a personal perspective, I try and not get too emotional about words and just try and look at things logically, and that's not always easy because, like you say, sometimes the things that are said. I think what is important probably to mention is that as managers and people have been in the game for a long time, we understand those pressures and we have to deal with it. I think what people don't understand is because they think managers get well paid and then because you get well paid that it's okay. But managers' sons and daughters don't get well paid, and their grandkids don't get well paid, and their wives and partners don't get well paid. And they're the ones that probably suffer most. And I think that's, Steve highlighted that. So like I said, you take it as a part of the job. We're very privileged to work in the position of managers at this level and any level. But it doesn't mean that you should be able to say anything. And as I said, there always has to be an element of respect. If it's professional, then fine. But you read things that are personal and that oversteps the mark. And but like I say, people think because you get well paid that it's okay, but it's not, because it normally falls onto close members of your family, and as I said, they don't get well paid, and they have to deal with it. So it's something that it's disappointing to see Steve obviously move on. What a career he's had as a player first and foremost. If you look at the number of games he's had. And then on top of that, to have 1,000 games as a manager, and I think all he asked for was a little bit of respect, and I don't think that was too much to ask in his circumstance. So, but like I say, he's done 1,000 games. He was a Wall's End boy. He's managed the club that he loves. Unfortunately, he's now moved on, and Newcastle will now go in a different direction. And for managers, we understand, as I said, the pressures of it, but it's something that we have to deal with, of course.
Thanks for your insight there and your words. Moving on, clearly a really positive week in terms of your European exploits. Would it be safe to say that Patson Daka will play a huge part this weekend off the back of scoring 4 goals?
We'll certainly be involved. I think what's really nice is, for me now as a manager, we've tried to manage the team and in particular our strikers. Jamie, keeping him fresh in Premier League games, and hoping that he becomes more involved as we go into latter stages of European competition, if we're lucky enough to be able to do that. But the freshness has kept him full of energy and full of goals in the Premier League. Kelechi is now a consistent performer. He'll either score goals and create goals and work very, very hard. And Patson was always one that we wanted to, give him that little bit of time to adapt to our way of working, our training, the league. And day on, day out, you see him accustomed to that. And of course, he's had an amazing week, scoring his first Premier League goal and first Zambian player to score in the Premier League, and then to score 4 goals. That was an incredible individual achievement. So we're in a great position in that part of the field, whatever the combination is and however we want to work it. all three players are in a great form and great place. So, but we have so many games that you can't tie just one or two players down to the position.
Looking ahead to the game, in terms of the team news against Brentford, have you got any niggles concerned? Is there anyone coming back from the treatment room? Can you just update us on the team news?
Yeah, what we got? So we got Mark Albrighton, who had a horrendous challenge on him in the game. They'd only got a yellow card against Moscow, so he's probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks out, which is a shame for him because he's such an important player for us. But Timothy Castagne, who was involved, should be okay. Just taking him through tomorrow, our last preparations for the game, so he should be all right. Ioze as well. Wasn't feeling great for a few days, but trained today and looked very good and strong. So that's a bonus for us. And James Justin will start training with the team very soon, so that'll be great news for us. And apart from that, there's no other news. Wilf isn't too far away, but like I said, it's probably going to be around the next international break.
Brilliant. And in terms of looking ahead to Brentford, many people would be perhaps surprised to see them in ninth off the back of promotion to the Championship. They've clearly adapted to the Premier League very, very quickly. They've got a great philosophy, both in their recruitment and in the way that Thomas sets up the team. They've picked up points against West Ham, Arsenal, and drew with Liverpool. Are you surprised to see them doing as well as they have done, or are you someone that expected that because of the philosophy that's clearly been running through the club for a long time?
I think I haven't had the experience of going from the Championship into the Premier League. I understand when players that haven't played at the top level come in, and they want to come in and prove themselves, and that's always a great recipe when you have players that want to prove themselves at the level, and they have quality. Then of course it makes them a very, very difficult team to play against, and I think that's been proven earlier on the season. And I think early season what they've got is they've got belief. You know, they won their first game, and then you just see, when you see them play, you see the emotion in the stadium, which is great. You know, people that followed the team for so many years to now be at the highest level of the pyramid, you can see the joy. So I think every game, players, as I said, want to prove themselves. Players that have quality. Manager's done a brilliant job, you know, in terms of galvanising that culture over these last few years in particular, especially just missing out in the playoffs, the previous season to last. So yeah, it's a great story. And like I said, how they've then operated off the pitch as well is been very clever and very methodical. And yeah, they've done a great job at Brentford.
Brilliant. I'll let someone else have a crack. All the best. Thanks, Brendan.
Cheers. Thanks, Mark.
Hi, Brendan. Good to see you.
Hi, Vicky.
Just going back to Patson Daka, I mean, he says that he has a lot of things that he wants to improve. In your view, what is currently his biggest attribute, and what as a manager do you want him to be working on?
Well, I think his strengths are what you've seen the other night. He plays on the shoulder, wants to run in behind, and he's a natural goal scorer. You see that in him, very much like Jamie, in terms of his movements. They want to go in behind, they want to stretch back lines, and then once they're in that final 25 yards of the pitch, they have confidence that they can score. And where Patson's in a great position to learn from someone like Jamie. You know, he's watching him every day, and even without speaking, you can see that he's looking at his movements and he's learning and developing from being here and in the environment. So now that he is what he is, he's a real good guy who's his energy and life around the place. I think it typified it when he actually came in. When he actually came into Vicky and he had to do his quarantine, and he was going to be stuck indoors for 10 odd days. We had obviously the club were great in terms of asking him what he wanted in terms of tellies and all these PlayStations, whatever else in his room. He didn't want anything. He just said he would just some books. And that was him. He wanted to read. He wanted to find out about Leicester. He probably read Varda's book as well, maybe. But yeah, he's such a great guy, and he's just so full of life. He loves being here, and I just think with time, his game is going to continually improve. And but what he has this natural ability to smell out and sniff out a goal, and you see that in his record, and that'll be proven here in the Premier League as well, I'm sure.
And as you say, things certainly going very well up front at the moment. He's a huge addition to that. Well, what do you feel needs to change from a defensive perspective to bring those clean sheets back?
Just time. I'm not overly concerned because I know that over the course of the season, when we'll get players back and we'll have a bit more preparation time, then we'll improve in that aspect. But we've shown over a long period of time that defensively in the main we've been very good. I think certainly at the moment, without a lot of preparation time and working on things, it's just cutting out mistakes. We were unfortunate the other night with the own goal, but the second goal we can avoid. The second goal against Man United is something that we can cut out. So I think if we can cut out the mistakes, not give goals away, then we'll be okay. And then, like I said, what we've shown from the attacking front that with that constant threat, we can score goals. And I just think we'll improve on the defensive aspect as long as we stop conceding silly goals.
And just finally for me, in terms of Brentford, we've touched on their philosophy there. They're very much playing without fear. And I think it's a case for them where they have this mentality, they have this approach, but you need results to back that up in the Premier League. Otherwise, you can start to question yourself and, well, do we need to change? The fact that they've started so well, it really does just generate that momentum, yes, in results, but in terms of them thinking, yes, this is the way we play and we can do that and succeed in the top flight, which is key for them.
Yeah, it was key for anyone. It's key for any team. I think fundamentally you have an attacking philosophy and a defending philosophy, and if you can work those together and get results, that gives you confidence. But certainly when you come out of the Championship and you've watched the level and you're coming up against players, real top level players, that's you see the difference when you do move up from the Championship, the quality that's in every single team. Even subconsciously, the teams that you think you should beat, they'll always have players in there that is of a high standard and high level. But I think they've adapted so well, and I think that's a huge testament to Thomas and his staff that to give the players that belief. And like I say, the players themselves have shown great qualities to play, and actually they've had some really good results, and they'll look to continue with that. And so that's what we know for us. We're in for a tough game, but we know when we bring our game, it can also be equally tough for the opponent.
Thanks, Brendan. Best of luck.
Thanks, Vicky. Thank you.
Owen from BBC Radio.
Hiya, Brendan. Hope you're okay.
Hi, Owen.
I wonder whether I could ask you a couple more injuries at this moment. I know I saw Yuri Tillemans coming off against Moscow, and when he was talking to the physio, sort of had his hand clenched, and Pipe says that might have been him saying there was something a little bit tight in there. Maybe is he okay ahead of this game?
Yeah, but just more his sort of spasm on his, suppose his lower back. So he looks fine. He's on a recovery sort of work today and with the medical team. So, but yeah, he should be fine.
Okay, good. And Johnny Evans as well. I know you said that you might have to take him out at some point, and that will come further down the line. But how's his foot and that plantar fascia issue holding up after a lot of football for him in the last couple of days?
Yeah, well, he's coping and managing very well. I think he was excellent the other night, and we got him off when we felt we could. He just a little bit of soreness towards the end of the game, but actually not on his foot. Again, with his lower back, but he felt it a little bit in the Manchester United game. But overall, he's recovered well thus far, and like I say, he'll hopefully be fit and ready for the weekend.
On Patson and Daka, clearly such an incredible performance, 4 goals, 4 great goals as well. I wonder how important it is to manage expectations around him and his own expectations as well after that performance. Because I remember you saying at the start of the season that his sort of development was almost secondary to him settling in at the club during this season at the very least.
No, his development's not secondary. That's super important. How you develop them is key. And I think what we said was the adaptation is very important for them this season. But I think hopefully you can see that with all three strikers that how we've tried to manage them and manage their minutes, because we've got a lot of games and need a lot of energy in the games. Then whether we play with one up front, two up front, or three, it's managing that. So, but he's, like I said, he's adapting very, very well. The goals, of course, the first Premier League goal and the 4 goals the other night give him huge confidence, and that's what you want. So as a manager, it's absolutely great.
Sorry, yeah, I did mean the adaptation, so I beg your pardon. On Brentford, they've seemed to have kept a lot of players from the sort of the same players that they've since they won promotion from the Championship to the Premier League. How important has that been for their momentum and the way that they've started this season?
Well, for me, in my opinion, it's very important. The players that got Brentford into the Premier League, Thomas, like I did at Swansea, will feel that they deserve that opportunity. But you also need to add some other players of quality around it. So yeah, like I said, they want to prove a point, and when they have the attributes that they have, then you can see from the start that they're doing that. So yeah, but that continuity, that feel-good factor, as I said, it's galvanising the culture and having the players that have come through with them on that journey. Some of these boys being from League One, into the Championship and now into the Premier League, and it's a great story, and it's great to see them flourishing and doing really well.
Final one from me, Brendan. Tactically, that they're quite fluid in possession, and the games I've seen, sometimes they have their wing backs and their central midfielders almost swapping over, and it seems quite fluid in almost that transition. Tactically, how do you stop a team like that, I suppose, building deeper in the pitch and causing you problems in the transition? Because they seem, when they go forward, quite difficult to stop, and already against some top teams already in the Premier League this season.
I think it's one where, when I look at the team, they play in that sort of 3-4-1-2 system, or 3-1-4-2, whatever way you want to call it. The 2 strikers are a handful. They're physical. They want to run. They want to compete, and they have quality. They can score goals. Players in midfield can play. They can take the ball and pass the ball. And as I said, on the sides, they get good pace on the sides, and they want to deliver crosses into the box. And the back 3 try to close the game out. Goalkeeper's exceptional with the ball at his feet, so he can start the game for them. And in most teams in the Premier League, that is the level. So you just got to be really organised, and in terms of looking to stop the build up, and everyone synchronised as a team. And that you've got to be really competitive, good in set pieces. So they've scored a number of set pieces this season. So that element of the game is very good. So all in all, it's a typical Premier League game. It's a tough game. You got to be at your best to gain the points, and got to be very concentrated against a good side.
Brendan, thank you very much, and good luck on Sunday.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So we'll leave the broadcast section there. Joining us, we'll move into the Britons now, starting with questions for 10:30 tonight, and then we'll move on to Sunday.